All right, everyone. Today we are going to be talking about the Battle of Gettysburg, day one. The unfortunate thing is, those of you guys who are supposed to go on the East Coast trip, we would have been able to see in detail, the significance of this battle personally, specific spots. Even have talked with leading historians about each day, each significant point of the battle, so on and so forth. But I'm going to do the best I can when it comes to teaching you guys this learning of Battle of Gettysburg. We would take probably over a week to talk about this. I'm going to try to condense it into 1 week, maybe 1 week and another day to kind of finish this up. So here we go. Let's get started. Okay, so the location is Gettysburg, which is Adams County, Pennsylvania. It's a very, very small town. It still is today. It's the only historical place, but not place, but historical location, national park where people can actually live. During the time period, the population was around. I want to say it's less than 1,000 now. The population. Um, has around 2,400, a little bit more than that. There were 10 roads back in the day, okay, leading to the town, helping to create a few small but thriving industries. These roads and businesses would lead two armies into this county in 1863. The crazy part was they were never supposed to meet in this area. This was all chance, just accidental. You had the Confederates were actually going there to get supplies, and those supplies that they were looking for was shoes, because many of them had been walking without shoes or appropriate shoes or footwear for days. And there was a huge shoe factory over in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and they were looking to kind of, find shoes and be able to grab them. And all of a sudden, just happened to be the Union Army, commanded by Meade at the time. Ended up just meeting them coincidentally there, and this giant battle broke up. Okay, so you have now, this is Gettysburg, what it looks like today, kind of small town America. It's very obviously a highly populated area when it comes to tourism, things like that. The Gettysburg College is there now, so it's a historical college, pretty cool to go to. And then this is what it looked like back in the day. Okay, not a lot honestly has changed in this town from 1863 to present day. They keep everything pretty intact, besides the college and maybe a couple of buildings here and there. It looks like 1863. It's pretty remarkable. So the Union Army was commanded by General George Meade, who had just recently been defeated at Chancellorsville by the Army of the Potomac. And he obviously didn't have great luck with Lee, and this is exactly who he's going to be going up against again. He had 104,000 soldiers under his command, which is obviously remarkable numbers when we think about the Confederate Army. Again, why was the Union Army had so many numbers for them? Well, they had immigration coming in from the north, the Irish coming in. It was constant reinforcements, and they also had the draft that they were imposing on individuals as well. So there's General George Meade. Okay, fantastic beard. And then you had General Robert E. Lee. Okay, military unit was known as the Army of North Virginia. He had between around 71 to 7,500 soldiers during the time of the Civil War, give or take. A lot of the times, as we talked about before, he was outgunned, outsupplied, outsoldiered, but his tactics were extremely specific and worked extremely well against the Union. He was a very brilliant man. And again, many of his Confederate soldiers did not have adequate footwear, which is the reason why they were in Gettysburg to begin with. Pretty remarkable to think about it. There's Robert E. Lee. Now, day one. Okay, in the morning, there was two brigades of the Confederate Major Henry Heath's division, okay, which was on A.P. Hill, 3rd Corps, okay. Basically, what ended up happening is the Union dismounted their cavalry. They were stationed at a couple of different vantage points around Gettysburg. So they had, you're going to hear things like Cobb's Hill, a couple of different little places that we're going to speak about as we go through this. Basically, they were looking for reinforcements from Reynolds for the Union Corps, Confederate assault of Chambersburg, Pike, and repulsed other General Rhodes and killed, and he was killed. Okay, so there was a skirmish. He was shot and killed. Day one is not going to go well from the Union soldiers. By the early afternoon, there had been some more reinforcements. Union was able to position themselves in a half circle and basically stop this massive attack that was put on by the Confederate Army that was looking to basically end the battle that day. The Confederates pushed the Union all the way back to basically their command center. And Union was able to hold their high land advantage. If you guys were in class, I would show you specific pictures. Cemetery Ridge, Nob Hill, all these things, or Cobb's Hill, all these things that we're going to be talking about. Little Round Horn, Big Round Horn. The significance of the vantage point was up to the most importance. If you had to take, let's say, Cemetery Ridge, you would have to run up in a continuous amount of hills. And on that ridge that was controlled by the Union, there were mortars, cannons, men all over there. So it was very, very difficult to get up that ridge. And that was the whole point of being able to control that center. So again, although the Union were going to basically lose that day and be pushed back, they were able to hold that ridge. And that was very important, because if they didn't hold that ridge, what eventually was going to happen was the Confederate Army would have broke through there and in essence, would have had a road straight to D.C. Okay, so it continues. Rosenheath from the Confederate Army joined forces, pushed back the Union Army, just like we said before. The final cause of the collapse of the Union was at Oak Ridge. Basically, what ends up happening is the soldiers are caught in the town center, and they're being shot by crossfire by not only the Confederate troops, but their own troops. And they really have no which way to go because they're in open space. It's like shooting a fish in the barrel. So many of these troops basically start retreating, and many of them took positions in homes, things like that. Those of them who could get back to the Cemetery Hill or Cemetery Ridge was able to do so, and basically had that additional help and support, so they would not be overrun by the Confederacy. But again, this whole battle is being fought in a town. So not only are these soldiers going to have to deal with this deadly, bloody battle, which is going to be like the bloodiest battle of the entire war, and the most significant battle is when we get to Gettysburg Address. But they are going to affect the people in the town. They're not going to recover from this for, I'm talking at least a decade. So pretty insane. This is the ridge that we're talking about, what the Union Army was able to hold, so they could push back the Confederacy. So they basically didn't have a straight arrow to D.C. So here's some pictures. Cemetery Hill. Okay, like I said, for the Confederates, they had to come up a bunch of different hills. Actually, right over here is now high school. It's pretty crazy. But so high school looks over exactly where this battle was taking place. But for them to get up here was nearly impossible. And if they did, the battle would have been over. But Meade was able to hold him off, along with his cannon fires, mortars, and he was well supplied. This kind of gives you a better understanding of how things looked. You had this is the center of Gettysburg, basically being pushed back by Avery and Hayes, and they were able to hold their line here, Cemetery Hill, also known as Cemetery Ridge. So day one deaths. The first day at Gettysburg, more significant than simply a prelude of bloody, the second and third day ranks the 23rd biggest battle of the war by numbers of troops engaged. But 1/4 of Meade's army, 22,000 men, and 1/3 of Lee's army, 27,000 men, were engaged at one time during day one battle. The Union casualties were almost 9,000 men, and Confederates were slightly more than 6,000. So again, imagine the travesty. Imagine the pure carnage that was going on that day. When we watch Lincoln, we are going to watch Lincoln. You guys will watch it with your family, things like that. But you're going to see they do show a scene of Gettysburg, and the pure carnage from it is devastating. It's really terrible. And again, you have to realize this was in the heat, in a hot day in July. It smelled. Bodies were laying everywhere. Horses were laying everywhere. It was truly a devastating sight to see. Okay. We're going to stop here for today. I'm going to load these notes up online. And if you go back here, you guys will be able to actually click on, actually, it's Gettysburg Day 1 video. I'll see if I can upload that for you guys, and you'll be able to take a look at that. If I can't, I'll at least tell you like where you can go to see the movie Gettysburg Day 1. Talk to you guys soon.